Welcome everybody. Welcome back again to Between Three Rivers, a podcast that's designed to bring community leaders to our regional population. And today we have the great, distinct pleasure of welcoming Scott Hinderman, who is the Executive Director of Airports for the Fort Wayne Allen County Airport Authority. And so, Scott, thank you so much for being here today. And by the way, I don't want to forget to introduce Billy. In case you don't know Bill Corshett, he's sitting across from me, and he's the co-host, along with myself, Dan Copeland. And we're here to squeeze out every ounce of information we can possibly get out of Hinderman. So, with that said...
Man, that was the best introduction that we have ever had. That was amazing.
Set the stage. Hopefully I can answer questions.
Yeah, you better be good.
Yeah.
You better be good.
I think we're done.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So welcome. Thank you for being here. And let's get right into this because, you and I were talking before we started taping, and we covered a lot of the territory that we're going to discuss here today, but we'll go back over some of those things. And Scott, you run the airport operation, and let's dig right in, first of all, to what's going on at Fort Wayne International Airport. You got a lot of stuff happening out there. Tell us where we are.
We do. In fact, if you haven't been out there for a while, get online, buy a ticket, get out there. But we have, we're making about $145 million investment in our terminal building. So it's the largest investment or project that the Airport Authority has ever seen. Clearly, years ago, projects just weren't as expensive now, but it is a total reconstruct of the existing terminal building, as well as about another 100 and some thousand square foot add-on to the building. So for us, it's a very large project. I think $145 million is a big number for everybody, but maybe not all. But we're doing a good project. We got phase 1 done. We are currently in phase 2 and 3. And there is only phase 2 and 3. After that, we will be done with the terminal project, which should be sometime next October.
Yeah, it's really impressive. When I fly out, it's kind of a, lot going on right now there. But you guys do such a good job of making sure the flow works and safety's there and everything like that. Because it is a big project.
Well, one of the things that we did on our project, even before the architects, sharpened the pencil, we identified what are the goals of the project, and move people efficiently and all that. That's a good goal, but our goal for the project is really identified: make people from Northeast Indiana proud of their airport, and those who are coming to Northeast Indiana for visiting family or business, we want you to make them people impressed, a great first impression as they come into Fort Wayne, and just the amount of accolades I get from the people who have seen our project so far, I think we're hitting the mark. And we got a year left to get the project done, but I think we're hitting it. It looks great.
It really does.
And we have also focused on accessibility. So we've done a lot of neat things in the terminal building to make the building accessible, making travel easy for all, if you will. Whether it's whether your handicap might be, we made it sure it's that travel is not difficult for all people.
No, it makes sense.
I think you mentioned accessibility. Didn't you mention that already when we were talking earlier about the airport?
Yeah, definitely. So just in general, when you go into the airport and from the original airport, I guess it never really changed for years, right? And then all of a sudden you walk in now, you had old elevators, you had old things like that, old escalators, but now you're coming into this new state-of-the-art airport.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. The best part about all the renovations is the fact that they're going to quadruple the advertising space out there. So just for what it's worth, if you're an advertiser or if you're not advertising out there, we're happy to help with that. So thanks for increasing it so dramatically.
And that's the Business People magazine plug right there.
I guess it is.
Was that
That wasn't really meant to be.
Our advertising, our sponsor, Business People magazine.
Well, it does get a lot of looks. In fact, this year last year we set an all-time record of people coming through the airport, and that record is going to be shattered this year. We're 6.76% up year to date.
Wow. Nice.
So Northeast Indiana has a high need to travel, to go places, or businesses outside our area have a high need to come in and do business or visit people from Northeast Indiana. So our numbers are very strong. We're getting a continual increase. We would have more numbers if we could get more seats on aircraft. Our aircraft are full, and we are working on getting some additional routes and more seats to new destinations. We just can't announce any yet today.
Right.
Scott, how many people are we talking about traveling out of and into the airport this year? Do you know the number yet?
So
I know it's not over, but we're close.
can't do math in my head. So I'll back up that. And last year we had 398,000 travel out, just one direction.
Just one way.
And most people who leave come back. So you could double that number. But right now we're 6.6.
Yeah, so 8 times 6.
So we're probably going to come in right around that 425, 424.
Yeah, so maybe 850.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
That's phenomenal.
and hey, look at Northeast Indiana, Fort Wayne. We've really grown in the last couple of years. We came out of the pandemic in a sprint mode. So people need to either go places to do commerce or have fun, take the family for vacation. Or the other thing is we often forget about it, that the planes go both ways. We are seeing a lot of people come into Fort Wayne to do commerce. We're an attractive place to do business. So we're seeing a lot of increase in commercial activity.
Yeah, very exciting. It is beautiful. The first time I saw the restaurant area, I'm not sure what is that called?
The restaurant upstairs, we opened that about 3 weeks ago. It is Hop River, and
nice.
then they have a coffee shop called Bonbons, and both are local operators. And they provide a great service. We did take the restaurant up to the second floor. I hate to say it, but travelers, even I'm this guy. I don't want to be late for everything, but I don't necessarily want to dwell too long. So. But now the restaurant, the coffee shop are up by the gate, so people come through. The power of suggestions when you're right there is strong.
Yeah.
So the restaurant's only been there for a little bit, and they're doing gangbusters already.
That's amazing.
Paris McFarling is Hop River. I'm acquainted with Paris. Don't know him very well, and I knew he was involved, but I didn't realize that's what they were calling it. So it is a Hop River restaurant.
Paris has got his brand, his and everything. It is being managed by a company called Tailwinds, but they went and grabbed the local venues, the menus, the local beer, and they're bringing that. I'm that guy. Whenever I travel, I try went in whatever city, insert name, drink their beer. So when I go someplace, and I think there's a lot of that, whether you're a beer snob, coffee snob, or whatever. But what's the local? Let me taste local.
Sure. So tell me this, this is a huge project. What is the workflow for that? Is that you going in and presenting to a board? How does that work? You just said you're up 6-7%. Tell us how you can get such project going.
It's a really good question. I'll shorten it up as much as I possibly can. We knew we needed to do something. And the primary point of our project is because the aircraft that serve us have gotten larger. Mm-hmm. And I say us, I say Northeast Indiana. The terminal building was designed in the early 90s, or last remodeled, and that's when we still had the turboprop aircraft.
Okay.
So the lineal feet that we have between gates needs to be larger because of the larger aircraft. So we were in a point where we had 8 gates, but we couldn't park 8 aircraft at our terminal at the same time because of wingtip conflict. So that's how we started, but we are not owned by the FAA, but the FAA has a significant governance over airports. Mm-hmm. So we did a concept study all the way back to 2017. It absolutely showed what we need to do. We needed more square foot. So we started doing that. We engaged with an architect. We got that, designed. And then we were in the process of picking our first construction manager, and the pandemic hit.
Oh, geez.
Airports across our country, and actually, quite frankly, across the globe, they were all in a restricted mode. Slow down, don't do anything. The Airport Authority Board was push forward. Now is the time we have to do this. The pandemic will be over. We will rebound. Very visionary. So we pushed forward, and that has really helped us attract, because we were ready for construction when other airports were now starting to get ready. So we were ready. We were able to attract a lot of federal funds to help offset the cost of our terminal building.
That's such a powerful statement, though, about, that time period, 2020 and whatnot. Either you kept going or you failed. I've heard it so many times recently where even we were looking at a company to inquire. They stated they shut down for 6 weeks, and all of a sudden they lost a lot of their business because of that shutdown. And then it was so much work to get it back. And I think that like a lot of these people, that kept going and pushing through it, they're seeing, I guess, benefits from that.
Well, and the aviation community is small. Even during the pandemic, as within 6 months after March, April 2020, shortly thereafter, we were really rebounding. Fort Wayne was coming back alive. Our passenger numbers were not 100%, but they were really coming back. And a lot of airports were calling me and says, well, how are you doing this? Where their communities were still hurt. And that's kind of one of the neat things I like about Fort Wayne and Northeast Indiana is we don't have one mega company. We have a lot of small companies. So if there's a company out there that says, hey, our industry is fractured, we are really shrinking our travel, that's fine. But then these other ones are actually picking up travel. So we're a pretty well-balanced region. And that's helpful. So
right.
We came out of the pandemic much better than a lot of airports.
That's great. And so like a lot of your customers are business people.
Yeah. I'm not originally from Fort Wayne. I came here. I like the Midwest. But one thing about the Midwest is we have cars and we're not afraid to drive them. You can, if you want to make a bad decision, you can drive to a different airport to fly. I wouldn't suggest it. Maybe you have bad weather and a speeding ticket on the way to the airport where you could just fly locally, but you can. And we do everything we can to be a friendly, easy to operate in and out of airport. You come in, you get a cookie out of Fort Wayne.
Oh, yeah.
We try to make that Hoosier hospitality as strong as possible.
Well, so excuse me for interrupting, but the reason someone would go to another airport is basically to either save money or get a direct flight so they don't have to make a stop. Is that correct?
Oh, there could be someone, but those are the primary. The other one would be if, hey, I don't know, if my mom lived in Chicago and we were going to fly someplace together, I would want to probably go and travel with my mom. But for the most part, you're right. The truly strong discretionary budget-minded traveler might be looking. It can be frustrating in my head. Again, I said earlier, don't make me do math in my head, but by the time you put in your time, your gas, and your parking at a different airport, I'm not so sure the ticket is more. Or if you buy your ticket late, the airlines might have a higher fee on that ticket just because there's only a couple seats left on the aircraft.
They've got you.
So they kind of have you, but and I don't get to control the airlines. I'm not so sure I'd want to, but so we don't get to control that pricing. I will say when people look at the airport, Fort Wayne's always expensive. We call it a cost per enplanement. So the airlines pay us about $8.28 per person, and if we said it was free, the airlines I would doubt would lower the airfare by $8.28. So if it's expensive, it's because the aircraft are getting full, not because of the airport is gouging.
Supply and demand.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
So we need bigger planes, more of them.
We do, and right now I think we have that. We have been very successful this last year. Charlotte is already getting larger aircraft. Delta has brought larger aircraft in all their routes. Mm-hmm. We did get Detroit back. That took a little bit of a hiatus. We have that back as of this last June. We're trying to, United is flirting. Every now and then they'll bring in a larger airframe to O'Hare for their connecting passengers. That's not a regularly scheduled environment yet, but they're testing. I call it a research by flying it, as opposed to, truly looking at a business model.
Do we ever get I know a little bit about airplanes, and the 175, I think that's the Embraer maybe.
Yeah.
And that's a nice airplane. It's got the engines on the wings. And do we ever get a 737 or any other bigger? Well, I know Allegiant flies.
Yeah, in fact, Allegiant, they do have the new
Airbus.
Max. They actually are bringing them into Fort Wayne on occasion. We'll see them. But
what about the legacy carriers?
The legacies were, that's one of the challenges that the airline industry is having right now is aircraft availability. The Boeing is now got a new contract, so hopefully they'll start kicking out more aircraft out the front door a little bit faster. But a lot of the 175s, the Embraers or the CRJ 900s, the larger RJs are filling the medium hub airport to the large hub airport because there's a shortage of the larger airframes. So as soon as those 737s get into the market, it'll free up some of those 90 passenger aircraft that can serve our market. But we're seeing some of them. At the end of October next year, our terminal will be fun to or will be complete, where we can have more aircraft at the terminal at one time, because we are restricted to some gate loss because they're not literally there yet. We're still trying to build them. But that's coming. We'll be right around the corner.
There'll be 10 gates.
It'll be 9 gates, but one gate will have 2 positions. So you can park 2 aircraft at it, but the loading bridge will go to one gate. You can load it, and then it will contract and then extend back out to the aircraft.
Okay.
So
I have 2 questions for you. One is, what's your favorite thing that's coming in new? And then the other question is, what are you going to do with all this time when the construction's done?
Those
are both really good questions, and I think the favorite
how come
thing
he gets the good question and response? All I get, I don't get any of that. I got to come up with some better questions.
Well, no, I mean, if you look at what we did, is we're doing this large project, and we're not swinging the hammers, right? The contractor's doing it, but we're helping manage this project,
right.
And my staff has really stepped up, and I think we're all getting to the point where we enjoy the project. We're going to be happy when it's done so we can provide a better product to the community. But we're looking forward to getting back to our normal jobs and having this construction behind us, or going back to a typical taxiway project or a runway project or rehab pavement or something. It has been a long road to get this done. The best part of the project is not necessarily one thing, but working with the community and listening to everybody to make sure that we're building your airport to your needs.
Right.
Again, we worked with accessibility and universal design. It's been huge. Fort Wayne, we're attractive in the sense that we have an organization called Turnstone in here. If they have events someplace, or if they have an event here, our airport looks like it's a little mini competitive environment, because we have all these teams coming in from different countries, all wearing the uniform. So you swear the Olympics are in town, but it's really cool that we can accommodate their needs, whether it's visually impaired or accessibility is just being managed. One of the things that we're going to have is we're going to have a cane trail, and there's not another airport in the country that has a cane trail.
What's a cane trail?
Great question. I had to ask that. And Turnstone was huge, right? They brought out and kind of told us, hey, you don't know if you don't know.
Right.
So we asked questions that were just questions. And a cane trail it's essentially it's about a 12-inch line tile that goes through.
Oh man!
And so people who are walking and they utilize a cane, they can feel, so they know where they're going. Which is quite simple, right?
Yeah, and you've added the room for kids sensories.
Sensory room, we have that. Even those people who have to travel with a service dog, we have a dog or a SARA, service animal relief area. So once you're through checkpoint security, if your dog has to relieve itself, it doesn't have to go back through checkpoint. We have an area where they can go in. Hearing aid, if you're hearing, you walk in our building, if you have the hearing aids that are Bluetooth, they automatically, at least the announcements, automatically sync to your ear.
Whoa.
And then
that's pretty awesome.
Things that you don't recognize, that you just look like it's an amenity or a design. Even our gate signs, our signs are a lot larger, so those people who are, visually impaired can actually see them better. And then if you're not visually impaired, it looks like a decor. It just looks like it's a normal design. So we tried to accommodate a lot of things. I'm sure we didn't get everything, but we worked hard to.
Right. I mean, you're making the effort. That's huge.
So right before Korshid asked what a cane trail is, I was going to ask that question.
Oh, hey, good question, Dan. That's
nice.
Well, it would have been. Yeah.
So, I mean, I've heard a little bit about your background. I kind of want to dive into that because you're a Minnesota guy.
I am.
Coming from the sticks, right?
I would say sticks at the land where I'm from is very similar to here.
Okay.
But it is Minnesota. It's southern Minnesota. It's a very small town. And if you're not a farmer, you're doing something in your business that supports farming. It's an agricultural community. My
What's,
parents
what's the
were
name of
farmers.
that town, Scott?
Yeah, the name of the town is called Sleepy Eye. So way back when, if you were in proximity of my age, you probably watched Little House on the Prairie.
Yep.
And that was in Walnut Grove, which Walnut
Classic.
Grove was actually in my conference for athletics, high school, and all that stuff. So, and then even Walnut Grove, to go to the big town to see the doctor, it was in Sleepy Eye. So,
Sleepy Eye.
So how the heck did you get into aviation? What
fair enough. I was
farmer, and
I
what generation was your family farming?
1, 2, 3.
Three?
3 generation farming. My brother took the farm.
Okay,
He's
I was
still
wondering
farming
if it's
it.
still, yeah.
Hey, by the way, as a kid, we worked pretty hard on the farm. I think farming would be a hoot. I don't know about the livestock part. I always enjoyed them when they were on the plate. That's sort of how the barn.
not the picking up the other stuff, right?
Right. But no, I was always intrigued by watching the crop dusters. I would get to the airport, try to do my best to get a ride on an airplane. Again, the airport was a pretty small airport, so if you went out there, there's chances there's nobody there, and also if you see one airplane, you would go up and bug the pilot until he maybe give you a ride.
Did you get a ride?
I do that once. I
Yeah.
did that once in a while, and I think they kind of figured out that. I think people in aviation, if there's an opportunity to expose youth to aviation,
I thought the idea
normally
was
they did.
to give you a ride and get rid of you.
Yeah, that might have been too. So, but if you pester them long enough, that might work.
I'll
So,
tell you what though, the first time ever flying in a private aircraft or whatever, and you get that cockpit and you put on the headphones and you're talking to the pilot, and all of a sudden you're just like driving down the tarmac, and you're like, this is kind of intense. Like, I don't know, it's a weird feeling. And then the other side
First
of
time,
it coming down, you're like nose diving into it. It feels like.
Yeah, but I talk to a lot of people who are, some people, it's out there, it's a real thing. If you have a fear of flying or if you get airsick, my wife is one who gets airsick. So back when I was an active pilot, I would take my wife flying, try to get her over air sickness. And I said, well, once we get in the air, I said, go ahead and take the controls, thinking that if she would have controls in her body, if she would turn right and her body would know it's turning right, that it didn't work for her. She still got sick, even when she was controlling. So
that's why you picked up on aviation, just so you could.
No, I was in aviation well before I thought of finding a wife, but or at least I wanted to be anyway. But there just wasn't much in the career path I wanted to take in aviation. There just wasn't a whole lot in my hometown. I did go to college. In college, most like every student, I was probably strapped for cash, so I signed up for the Officer Candidate School program for the Marine Corps.
Oh, nice.
And then I did aviation when I was in the military. So that helped me. I went in the military knowing that I wasn't going to be a career guy, but I still enjoyed my time there.
Right. How many years did you do?
Just short of 5, because that's what I signed up for.
Yeah, that's good.
But I say this, nobody can ever do it, but if you could roll back time, I would go in again, but I would also get out again. It was a great time. I learned a lot. The military throws a tremendous amount of challenges your way, and it is a little bit of a sink or swim. You're going to either pick up on leadership pretty quick, because as a young second lieutenant, I had 160 people that I was overseeing.
Wow.
So you learn really fast. You're more senior enlisted guys that you could treat as a trusted agent, and just to get work done.
Do you have any situations where you were in harm's way at all, or?
Yeah, I was actually in the Persian Gulf War of Desert Storm, Desert Shield, the first one. And again, in helicopter, so we weren't the front line, but we were the front breach point when the ground war started. So the helicopter operations that we were in, we gave a lot of support to the ground troops. So we went up there. We were in Saudi Arabia. On Marshall Matting in the middle of the desert is where we were operating. And then when the ground war started, we provided all the supply right up through the breach point, and we did have a short-term contingency or a detachment at Kuwait City until Kuwait was liberated, and then we pulled back to Saudi Arabia. So
I don't know, Dan, if I ever told you this, but my grandfather was a merchant marine, and I was talking to my mom about this the other day. And merchant marines, they didn't become veterans till the 90s, and it was interesting to me because they were often in harm's way because they are bringing the supplies to the people that needed the supplies. So those weren't the best areas.
No. Well, I think that's a little bit what you signed up for. And, hey, all the training that you can do, maybe it's because you're well-trained, maybe young, potentially a little naive. You might not have recognized that you were in harm's way.
Yeah, you're invincible.
A little bit of that. And I think that's possibly some required training that you need.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's like 150 of you. It's like
Right.
you're all together.
right. Safety in numbers.
Safety, yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from your military experience, but you came here, I think you said 17 years ago.
Yeah, a little bit over 17 years I've been
Wow.
here now. So.
Yeah. And this is home. You're staying. You said you built your forever home a couple of years ago, and you're here to stay.
We are. In fact, I will say that, my kids, when they all kind of left, my kids, my wife and I were empty nesters. We started saying, well, we weren't leaving Fort Wayne, but we started thinking about, well, where should we go to retire? And we couldn't find any place that we liked better than here.
Yeah.
So then at some point, says, well, we lived in a subdivision. It was a nice subdivision, nothing wrong with it. But we thought, if we're going to stay, let's go find some place where we have a little elbow room. And we found a little couple acres in the country and built a house. We moved into it 2 years ago this month.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
I don't know, it's pretty cool.
No livestock yet?
That ain't gonna happen.
It's in the freezer.
But it's just nice. It's quieter. You step outside on a warm summer night, the light or the stars seem brighter
Right.
They
without
are,
light
yes.
pollution around you. It's just a nice area, and we're close. It's not like we're far away. We're very close, so we still have fun
Tell
downtown.
us about your grandkids.
I got 3 children. They are all kind of got married at the same time. I don't think there was competition, but they all started having kids at the same time. So I actually have 8 grandkids, or my wife and I have 8 grandkids, and they range from about 2 months old to going to turn 6 next month.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, that's
So-
amazing. Did they stay in Fort Wayne or are they around?
So 4 of them are up in Detroit.
Okay.
But the beauty of that is Detroit's close, and they also just moved to Detroit from about 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Moved to Detroit from Washington, D.C.
No wonder you wanted the flight back so bad to Detroit.
That's
Is
right.
that
That's right. I mean, Detroit's is an awesome airport. It's a
it
great
really is.
connecting airport.
it
So
is.
and Delta has a lot of connections there. So we wanted that route back.
Oh,
and,
man.
So
and I was
you
getting a
fly
lot of
up there
hits
to
by
see
the
them, right?
community. So the business community wanted that route back too. So we're happy. We're very thankful that Delta saw the errors in their ways and brought that flight back.
Right.
And you fly up there to see them, right?
Actually, I don't know too many people who fly to Detroit or Chicago. So when I go, but I mean, it's a great connecting. So
Yes,
but,
it is. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad it's back.
The Detroit and everything too. I think that we used to fly it all the time when you go from Detroit to overseas even too. That was a big one, right?
It was, and I will say that's somewhat why Delta pulled down, because they didn't take Detroit and Fort Wayne. They didn't just cease that flight. They took a lot of flights out of Detroit.
And I know you mentioned too the businesses wanted it back. What's that like? Because they were flying it a lot, or how did they get it back?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I was see, you got to pick it up here, Dan. Your
what? I
co-host is coming up with all the good
I just
questions.
want Billy to get all the credit for everything. It's all
So,
good.
I actually lost my train of thought a little bit there, but essentially what happened is we were asking Delta to serve it back. The business community was talking to the airport, said, hey, we really want this route back. Delta was looking at me potentially as, hey, you're the airport director. It's self-serving. Of course, you want all the routes you possibly can, and that's not wrong. That's true. So ultimately, I wasn't getting it done, so I reached out to the business community and said, I need help. If you want Detroit back, you write a letter, and it was to the senior VP of route planning. And don't just write a letter and say you want Detroit back. Please be specific. You want Detroit back because our travel budget is this. this percent of our travel budget is air, not just hotels and lodging and eating. And by the way, we fly all of this many segments. Our primary connecting or our destination is the Northeast. All that stuff helped. It was about maybe 2.5 weeks after I talked to a lot of businesses to do that, I got a call from Delta says, "Okay, we get it. Can you shut this off? We're getting a lot of mail." I said, I can't shut it off. So I mean, that mail continued, and they did their own modeling, and they called and said, "Hey, we're bringing it back. We'll start in June. I want to say 6th, but I could be wrong. But June 6th, I think, is the day that we got it back, and it was I call that a community effort. It wasn't just an airport effort. The airport I should be tasked with business development, bringing easier access to the globe, to the region. But at this case, I needed help. I needed people who were actually going to get on the airplane, say, this is why we need it back.
Right.
And that is what got us across the hurdle.
I'm a huge fan of collaboration and just utilizing the whole community as a whole. I mean, like you did with Hop River, Turnstone, all these collaborations are coming in together, and it builds the community up, builds your airport up. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say about this particular question, and you can tell me how great it is. But what kind of a celebration will you have when the construction is finished and everything's open? Are you going to have are you doing anything with that? What's the plan?
We are working towards a plan, and we are, the old saying, go big or go home. We're trying to figure out how to make it go big. And we would like to have a plan possibly in that maybe even November, December. So we might be operating a little bit, but we are looking towards having a sizable open house. We still have to run. So we are talking with the TSA because we're trying to figure out how to have an open house where people can come up and see the secured area.
Nice, yeah.
But yet we still have to operate flights. So everybody gets a little bit nervous because, regulation. I still think rules are made for other people, but we still try to follow all the rules. So we're working with our partners to figure out how to make that happen. And yes, I'm hoping that we can have, so it's, again, the airport is not just for those people who fly. It is a community asset. So if you don't fly much, but you want to see what the airport's all about, we want you to have the ability to come out and look at your airport.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be great.
Another aspect, again, that goes for, I'm in aviation today because I was a young kid and I saw planes flying around and it intrigued my interest. I am not an active pilot, but I still love aviation. I've been in different segments of aviation and I enjoy it. So one thing the Air National Guard does about every 3 years, they actually have an air show. And the weird part of that is, and it's a good weird, right? It's not a bad thing. Most air shows nowadays, it's a gate. You have to pay to get in. Mm-hmm. The Air National Guard provides a phenomenal air show free. And part of that is they're trying to get youth and encouraged or open the exposure of maybe joining the Air Force as part of a recruitment effort. I look at it more of, there's a lot of positions, a lot of career paths in aviation. How do you expose the youth to those? And an air show is one, right? It's hard to go, unless you buy a ticket, it's hard to get to an airport and touch an airplane unless you're going to an air show. With all the rules, we have fence around airports, we have all that. So having an air show, and by the way, I'll make a shameless plug. The Air National Guard is having an air show in 2025. The Thunderbirds are coming back to Fort Wayne, and it will be the first full weekend after the 4th of July this coming summer.
That's huge.
Is that Mike Guloff still
Mike is still very much involved in that, and he has done a great job for years.
Yes, he has.
Doing that. Really and he's a huge advocate for aviation in Northeast Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me the structure of FWA. You have you as the director, and then do you have a board or an ownership, or how does it work?
So it's not just FWA, it's the Airport Authority. So the Airport Authority governs and is the owner of both FWA and Smith Field.
Okay.
So the board, I guess there's a 6-member board, and they hire my position, and then I try to hire really good people to help run the airport.
Right.
And we run both airports.
So how did you find Fort Wayne, or did we find you?
Actually, okay. So I was before here. I was in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I managing that airport. And my predecessor, Torrey Richardson, was here for many years, and he was looking to potentially take his next step and move to a different airport, and called and said, "Hey, we're looking at some succession planning. We'd like to have you come to Fort Wayne and with the intent of running the airport."
So how many years did it take for you to say, all right, hey, we need to update this airport. We need to update this airport. You know what I mean?
That went on for a long time.
It did,
Yeah.
and quite frankly, we had a master plan that we did in 2012. There was a lot of airfield pavement that we were touching because it was at the end of its useful life, and the airport needed to be updated. So that's a given, but it was really evident that it needed to be updated as the employment, because we've had, prior to the pandemic, we had 10 years of consecutive growth.
Okay.
And then we started saying, hey, we can no longer operate our 8 gates at the same time. So we needed to do something. So it was probably in 12 when we started saying, hey, let's put some kind of a capital plan for the terminal together. And it had trigger events. At what point do we have to pull a plug and say, now's the time for the terminal?
Right.
We always want to be, I call it smart planning. You don't want to start building something when you need it, but you don't want to build the Taj Mahal when you really only need this.
Right.
So we're trying to make sure that we have the capability to handle X number of years of growth without making a capital significant expenditure. And when we're done with this project, we'll have 9 gates, 10 positions, and then we'll have the concrete apron to where we can go to 10 gates really quickly just by adding another bridge.
Nice.
So that would be, we could go to another gate bridge area without having a significant capital expenditure.
That's good vision.
Hey, wasn't there a time, or maybe it's still in a long-term plan, when the terminal building was going to be relocated on the south side of the airfield? Hey, what's the story on that?
So that is still in the plan, but the plan there is the ultimate build out. So if Fort Wayne would grow really big, and I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to. I always say, well, if Walt Disney brings the mouse to Fort Wayne and we just explode, we actually have a whole nother parallel runway that could go in so we can handle aircraft operations, not just at the terminal. There is a plan to relocate a terminal, but that is not even in our 20-year plan. That is in a mega plan. We are not investing in our terminal building to throw it away. This is our terminal. It will be our terminal, but at some point, it would be maybe short-sighted if 50 years from now, somebody's running the airport and says, they never even thought about it. Mm-hmm. They have no planning effort, no planning skill sets, and then they better not say my name. I want to make sure that we try to plan out what's the airport and how are we going to serve Northeast Indiana longer term, much beyond my career path.
That's great, because it's like, you think of legacy and stuff like that. You're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about the airport.
Right.
That's nice.
I do think that's the kind of planning it's absolutely unselfish, because you're not worrying about your career. You're beyond that.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of career,
what have we not touched on at this point that you want to share with us?
That everybody in the region works really hard, and they should go buy a ticket and go someplace.
Yeah.
Fly out of Fort Wayne. No, I'm happy to answer more questions, but thank you for having me on the show. But I mean, I don't know. I work at the airport. We have a lot of dedication to it. I have an amazing team to make it happen. It is not done by any one person, and I'm very blessed to work with the team I have. That
was one of my big things I was going to tell you today, is your staff. I know you're operational, and I don't know how you do it, but you keep the people there, and they go through a lot of stuff. I mean, traveling is stressful, but they handle it very well.
Yeah, and our goal is to, we're trying hard to make travel easy. Mm-hmm. It can be hard, right? The old saying says, would you rather be on the ground and have the significant storm at 33,000 feet, or would you say, hey, I really want to take off and then have problems at 33,000 feet? And hey, aviation, not just Fort Wayne, aviation is an extremely safe way to fly. So there's going to be hiccups. Weather does impact things, and there's other issues. But we try hard to make travel, getting great distances in a very short period of time, as easy as possible. And what we can do at our effort to make it easier for you and anybody else from the region, we work hard to do so.
Love it.
While we have you here, I just want to make a quick observation and highlight our sponsors.
Yes.
And we have Corshid. What is it called?
Corporate Holdings.
Corporate Holdings
is one of ours.
Billy's dad's very kind and is helping us out with sponsorship, along with Sasquatch Tea, and that would be Tom Tippman, I believe.
Yeah, Tom Tippman.
Tom Tippman's
Loose
company.
leaf tea,
Yep.
organic. You get one of these, by the way.
Okay.
And Don Polly from Fairfield Galleries, who donated, at least while we're here doing the show, donated the chairs. So thank you, Don. And then my company does monthly advertising for the show as well. So thanks to
good.
all. Yeah.
Very good.
And Scott, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. We know you're busy.
That's my pleasure. I'm glad I could come in here. Hopefully your audience learned something from my comment.
When we have you back again, I'm going to come up with some questions that I think are
Can you make them good?
going to be really good ones.
Appreciate it, Scott. This has been fun. It really
Thanks,
has.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Sure.